Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to jump right into some C# and tackle a classic question that, let's be honest, trips up a lot of developers. We're pulling this one straight from the experts over on Stack Overflow. All right, let's break this down. And it's a great question because these three delegates, they're absolutely everywhere in modern C#. At first glance, they look kind of similar, but trust me, they each have a very specific job. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which tool to reach for in any situation.
Okay, so first up is action. I like to call this one the doer. Why? Because its entire purpose in life is to just, well, do something. It performs a task and it doesn't need anything back.
So the most important thing to remember here is that an action is a one-way street. You give it some information and it goes off and does a job. Maybe it writes a log message or updates something on the screen or saves a file. And then it's done. It doesn't report back. It's a true fire and forget command.
And this is where things get really cool. Look at how this makes our code so portable. In that second step, we're basically wrapping up the entire do something method inside a variable called myAction. We can then pass that variable all over our application and tell it to run whenever and wherever we need it to. We just call it like a regular method.
And this really shows you where you'll see action out in the wild. You know when you use for each on a list? Yep, you're handing it an action to run on every single item. Or when a user clicks a button, the code that fires off is often handled by an action. It is the perfect tool for just triggering some kind of behavior.
And that right there, that's the fundamental difference. If action is our doer, then its counterpart, Func, is all about getting something back. This one single difference completely changes how and why you'd use them.
All right, that brings us to our second delegate, Func. Let's call this one the producer. See, unlike in action, a func is like asking a question that always expects an answer. Its job is to figure something out or go get some data and then hand that value back to you.
Right, so here's the deal. See that last type parameter in the pointy brackets? The T result? That's the money. That's the type of thing it's guaranteed to give you back. It could be a simple true or false, a complex object you've built, a number, whatever you need. A func always produces a result.
You see the pattern, right? It's almost the same as the action we just saw, but with that one massive difference. In step 3, we're not just running the delegate, we're running it and immediately using the value it gives us. We're asking it a question. Hey, what's 5 divided by 2? And our func gives us back the answer.
And why does this matter so much? Well, func is literally the engine behind LINQ. When you use select to transform your data, you're giving it a func to tell it how to do the transformation. When you use where to filter a list, you're passing in a func that returns a Boolean to decide, should this item stay or should it go? It's all about producing new values.
Okay, so you might be thinking, wait a minute. If a func can return a Boolean, a true or false for filtering, then why on earth do we even need this third delegate? Well, let's go investigate our specialized judge, the predicate.
Well, the whole story of predicate, it really just comes down to history, to timing. The C# legend John Skeet points this out in his answer. Predicate was born way back in .NET 2.0, and it was made for one specific job, making decisions on items in a list. It was only later that LINQ came along and gave us the super flexible func and action. Honestly, if func and action had been around from day one, we probably wouldn't even have predicate today.
And that really gets to the core of why predicate is still a thing, and why a lot of developers, like Ron here, really appreciate it. It all comes down to communication. When you see predicate T in a method signature, you know instantly what its job is, to make a clear true or false judgment. It's just more descriptive and self-documenting than the more generic func T bool.
So yeah, you're going to see predicate pop up mostly in these slightly older, but hey, still super useful methods on lists and arrays. Things like find all or remove all, they need a way to evaluate every item. And predicate was the original purpose-built tool for exactly that job.
Okay, let's put a bow on this. We're going to wrap it all up with a quick cheat sheet to really nail this down and give you a clear reference you can use in your own code.
So here you have it, all laid out side by side. Action is the doer. It performs a task and gives back nothing. Func is the producer. It does some work and returns a result. And predicate is the judge. It's a specialized func that makes a simple yes or no decision. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, the choice often comes down to your intent. Sure, a func that returns a Boolean can do everything a predicate can, but choosing the right one is about more than just what technically works. It's about craftsmanship. It's about writing code that's clean, that's clear, and that's easy for the next person, which, let's face it, might just be you in 6 months to understand. At the end of the day, the best choice is always the one that tells the clearest story.